Welcome to the Aero Export Consultants podcast. I'm John Young, and this is The Point. We've had a lot of tension in the U.S. trade world the past few months, and with so much uncertainty in the air about the direction we're going, I thought that I'd spend some time today looking at an already existing trade deal and how it affects U.S. businesses and export controls. The deal I'm talking about is the AUKUS partnership between ourselves, Australia, and the United Kingdom. Now, AUKUS isn't simply a trade deal between our nations, it's much more than that, and we'll get into it. Additionally, while AUKUS likely won't be the template for any tariff deals that are currently being discussed between the U.S. and international partners, it is an excellent subject to dissect on how international trade with allies is closely related with the regulations that directly affect our businesses here at home. For that reason, it's an excellent deal to analyze, so we can see how trade disputes can lead to potential new deals and trade barriers can be lowered for the benefit of all parties involved. So let's start off with a little bit of background on AUKUS first. In 2021, there was a move for the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia to form a closer relationship in regards to defense cooperation and trade between the three nations. The UK, of course, is a long-standing ally, and Australia as well is a close partner with the additional benefit of being a strategically placed country in the Indo-Pacific, where we have some adversarial nations such as China. Thus, this move towards collaboration was a logical step forward. This arrangement was originally geared towards the major initiatives supporting Australia in acquiring conventionally armed nuclear-powered submarines, or SSNs, at the earliest possible date. However, that quickly became one of two pillars comprising this arrangement. The second pillar was a major shift in our own wheelhouse of export compliance, and was an initiative to drastically ease licensing requirements and other barriers for the exchange of high-level technology with AUKUS partners. Our three nations endeavored to streamline our defense collaboration among our nations while strengthening our ability to protect the sensitive technologies that underpin our security. We committed to trilateral cooperation on emerging tech areas such as quantum technologies, AI and autonomy, hypersonics and counter-hypersonics, electronic warfare, undersea warfare, and cyber technologies. As of 2024, those efforts began in earnest in both of the export control regimes of EAR and ITAR. For the EAR, BIS removed license requirements for reasons of national security, regional stability, and missile technology for our AUKUS partners. The published rule shows that an important result of this change is that 600 series items will no longer require a license to Australia and the UK. Quote, in addition, items controlled under the EAR for missile technology reasons, consistent with the MTCR Annex, will also no longer require a license to Australia or the UK. Finally, except for those items requiring a license to all destinations worldwide pursuant to other regulations, many 9X515 satellite-related items will no longer require a license to Australia or the UK. With this rule, Australia and the UK have nearly the exact same licensing treatment under the EAR as Canada. For those unaware, Canada has extremely few licensing requirements for companies who wish to export there. A great majority of items controlled by the EAR are able to export to Canada, no license required. And that same status has now been granted to Australia and the UK under the AUKUS partnership. There are even specific carve-outs for certain ECCNs that otherwise require worldwide license requirements. Those specific ECCNs now have provisions that specify that AUKUS partners are not subject to those worldwide license requirements. In addition, for products that would remain under some license requirement, the new AUKUS regulations are expanding the explicit applicability for the following license exceptions: aircraft, vessels, and spacecraft, AVS, additional permissive re-exports, APR, and encryption commodities, software, and technology, ENC, respectively to include Australia and the UK. This new posture of restriction removal has allowed us to streamline trade to AUKUS partners. What do I mean when I say streamlining? Well, as the rule itself puts it, these changes will significantly reduce the volume of BIS licenses for exports, re-exports, and transfers to and within Australia and the UK, as BIS previously issued over 1,800 licenses per year for such items to Australia and the UK. All of these interactions have now become unbelievably simpler for manufacturers wishing to export to AUKUS partners. A whole swath of red tape has been eliminated with this move, allowing for freer trade and a more cooperative environment for partnership in areas of high technology with AUKUS partners. In addition, by reducing the volume of licenses and requests regarding these two large trading partners, we can speed up processing times within the government for our other business we require their input on. Well, that last point is wishful thinking, but at least it makes sense logically, doesn't it? These rule changes and joint partnerships are the result of a mindset of fair and low regulation trade. I believe the results we see from this style of agreement will be a solid indication that removing barriers to trade benefits not just foreign clients seeking to buy our products, but our domestic manufacturers as well. By streamlining certain aspects of export compliance and trade, we can ensure easier transactions with foreign allies and easier interactions with our own government oversight. And by improving the process, we also open the door to the multitudes of small businesses who have previously suffered under arduous processes and fees, allowing them to participate in trade at greater levels, strengthening our economy. Regulation removal is a benefit to all levels of trade. But let's return to the specific changes we were looking at previously. I went over the changes in EAR regulations. There's a whole second export compliance regime in ITAR that has gone through significant changes as well in regards to AUKUS. As the State Department puts it, this amendment to the ITAR is, quote, to facilitate defense, trade, and cooperation among Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States, to support the enhanced trilateral security partnership among Australia, the United Kingdom, and the U.S., and it is reflective of our nation's collective commitment to implement shared security standards on protecting defense technology and sensitive military know-how. So as I've been saying, the ultimate intention is to foster better trade through the removal of barriers. The ITAR chooses to do this through a wide-encompassing exemption to the ITAR. Section 126.7 of the ITAR is an exemption for defense trade and cooperation among Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. It reads, quote, no license or other approval is required for the export, re-export, retransfer, or temporary import of defense articles, performance of defense services, or engaging in brokering activities between or among authorized users of this exemption. But that's not all. The regulation changes also include an amendment facilitating the expedited processing of license applications for the export of defense articles and defense services to Australia, the United Kingdom, or Canada, Section 126.15. So as you can see, even Canada is benefiting from this deal. As with the EAR, there may be some specific articles or services under the jurisdiction of the ITAR that are not exempted due to the new regulation, even as widely applicable as it is. For those circumstances, this section will step in to potentially cover the situations that will still require a license. Some of the important aspects of this section are as follows. Quote, any application submitted for authorization of the export of defense articles or services to Australia or the United Kingdom will be expeditiously processed by the Department of State in consultation with the Department of Defense. Quote, any application submitted for authorization of the export of defense articles or defense services to Australia, the United Kingdom, or Canada, describing an export that cannot be undertaken under an exemption provided in this subchapter, will be expeditiously processed by the Department of State. Now, what constitutes expedited? As I've already joked, government swiftness is something of an oxymoron. Here's how the rule puts it. Quote, any license application of this section to export defense articles and defense services related to a government-to-government agreement between Australia, the United Kingdom, or Canada, and the United States must be approved, returned, or denied within 30 days of submission. For all other license applications, any review shall be completed no later than 45 calendar days after the date of the application. Well, I've heard worse. There is also a move with these new regulations to allow certain dual nationals of Australia and the United Kingdom to receive classified defense articles without a separate license from DDTC. These persons must be authorized users of the exemption or regular employees of such authorized users, hold a security clearance approved by AUKUS members that is equivalent to the classification level of secret or above in the United States, and they have to be located within the physical territory of AUKUS members, or be a member of the armed forces of Australia, the United Kingdom, or the United States acting in their official capacity. Why do we care about this? Well, this addition is to facilitate the use of AUKUS license exemptions and allow dual nationals of another country and Australia or the United Kingdom to transfer classified defense articles within this arrangement. As I've said previously, this whole AUKUS deal is to remove barriers, ease restrictions for the purpose of cooperating on technology and bolstering our defense industrial capabilities. To do that, ease of communication and information is paramount between partners. Now, with such a broad license exception, what circumstances would still require a license, you might be wondering? Knowing that the ITAR covers several highly restricted and even classified technologies, a list of items under the ITAR jurisdiction was made that would not be eligible for the license exception. This excluded technology list can be found under Supplement Part 2 to Part 126 of the ITAR. Under it, you can find items such as cluster munitions, the F-22 aircraft, large amounts of classified articles for many different ITAR categories and related articles to those items. So to pose a few questions, are these new exemptions beneficial for the United States? Yes, I believe so. Are these new exemptions beneficial for your business? Yes, I believe so as well. My opinion, of course, but I'm sure it's shared by many. The easing of restrictions to staunch allies is a welcome step if we seek to remain at the summit of innovation and industry in a vital area such as defense. But remember, this is a practice we can only put into place with allies we trust. Whenever we deal in the worldwide implications of export compliance, foremost in our mind has to be national security concerns, even over economic concerns. This is a point you've probably heard me bring up before if you listen to my podcasts or any of the EIB podcasts I've written, and it's because I feel so strongly about it. Regulations are an important part of our security as a nation, which is why it's important that they are wielded efficiently. AUKUS is now the law of the land for the partner nations. Already in my own work, I've seen its effects with the businesses I consult for. Trade is eased, products are able to flow much more freely on a micro level. On a macro level, I am sure that the alleviation of licensing burdens has allowed for significant cooperation between the three partner nations. We can hope or even trust with some level of confidence that these partnerships will bear fruit for our defensive capabilities, rendering our nations stronger, more aligned, and more prepared for the high-tech future we are rapidly entering. Pillar 1 of AUKUS is nuclear submarine focused, but Pillar 2 allows for that same level of cooperation to expand to many different areas of technology, areas we will need superiority in for the 21st century. That's not all we can hope for from AUKUS either. AUKUS is an example of when regulations have a valid reason to be removed, lest they do more harm than good to our defense capabilities and industrial might. And this leads us into what else AUKUS is a good example for. I'm sure it's escaped no one's notice that we are currently engaged in a fraught economic and trade restructuring with the rest of the world. The tariff agenda of the Trump administration has upended the status quo, and the focus point right now has settled on new trade deals with other nations. AUKUS came at a time when regulations and barriers to trade were stifling economic prosperity, among other things. The deal worked out between ourselves, Australia, and the UK was part of an effort to address those barriers, remove them in order for a stronger relationship to flourish. While the subject matter of the tariff incident is markedly different than the issues that plagued AUKUS, the steps America can take now might tread the same path we took then. As I record this episode, the news is abuzz with the potential of a tariff deal with India, what the Trump administration hopes will be the first of many deals. These deals represent an opportunity, like AUKUS, to remove barriers to prosperous trade. We should hope that America and the partners it wishes to trade with productively can come to agreements that better benefit us as a nation, as businesses and manufacturers, and as consumers. If AUKUS was able to have beneficial, far-reaching consequences up and down the spectrum, maybe tariff deals can as well. But that's a different discussion. To return to AUKUS briefly, there's a chance we're not done. At the time of its implementation, there was talk about other countries that could potentially join the deal. South Korea and Japan were names thrown around by commentators, both of whom we have significant trade relationships with already, and they too hold strategic value in the Indo-Pacific. While tariff deals are our current focus, will we also see attention turn to Pacific trade deals as well? The second pillar of AUKUS holds great potential for some of our close allies we cooperate defensively with. If we are already committed to engaging with some of these countries in our defense industry, wouldn't it make sense to ease restrictions around these allies in these areas, freeing up trade for all businesses, big and small, bringing in greater prosperity? Just a thought. Until we reach those deals, we'll have plenty to watch with tariff discussions. But until then, remember, for all your questions and export compliance needs, contact us here at Aero Export Consultants. Research done right, compliance made simple. I'm John Young, and this has been The Point.